G'day! Welcome to StAC's 100, the show where we take a look at what's happening at the college in its centennial year.
NCEA exams are underway, and despite earthquakes, students are coping.
Positive thinking. That's what we all need at all times. We're going to take a look at one of our sports teams and how they use positive thinking.
First, we meet one of our best-known staff members who knows all about being positive and how that can help every part of our lives.
Welcome to Mr. John Quinn, our counsellor. Mr. Quinn is involved with the concepts of mindfulness and positive psychology.
Mindfulness, Mr. Quinn. What does it mean?
Look, it's quite an old concept. It's been around for a very long time. I suppose there's a couple of parts to it. One is our ability to stay present in the moment, which sounds really obvious, but often we're not. We're talking to people, we're answering our phone, we're thinking about other things. So it's the ability, I suppose, to stay on task and listen to where we are. The second part to it is our ability to be non-judgmental with our thoughts. And again, it's a concept which sounds really obvious, but we're not. We're consistently judging all the time. And once we judge, it's good or it's bad. And that's when we can obviously get impact on our mood and how we feel about things. So they're, I suppose, the main two concepts. Another part to it is about, the compassion part, about how we treat people, how we treat ourselves, and how we look after ourselves. So the two main ones are about being present and being non-judgmental. So
how important is mindfulness?
Look, I think it's really important because you talked about at the start about positive thinking, which is really overrated. We're never positive. But it's the ability to actually manage when things aren't positive. And mindfulness allows us to accept things as they are, because things happen to us all the time and we want things to go well all the time, but they won't. So it's our ability to sit with it and be okay with it. All the different feelings we have, happy, sad, fear, anxiety, they're all feelings and they're all okay, but it's our ability to sit with them and be non-judgmental. So I think that's really important.
So it's not just a fad?
Oh, look, it's been around thousands of years, so no, it's probably a fad now in the sense of it's become a bit mainstream, but it's been around a long, long time, and I think it's something if you make it a way of life, it doesn't become a fad, it becomes sort of a bit of a lifestyle choice. And it can be very helpful. So
then how can mindfulness benefit us all?
Look, many ways. I think it's our ability to stay present, because that's such an easy concept to do, but we don't. When you guys walk into class, how often do you actually sit there and listen to the teacher? Probably you sit down and your mind starts going somewhere else. So we know when you have to actually focus in class, well, mindfulness gives you the ability to practice focusing in class. If you can then look at every situation and look at it as being non-judgmental, it is what it is, it often allows us to manage the highs and lows in life a lot easier. So there's many benefits of it for us.
So you work with sports people on the topic, don't you?
Yes, yep. Yeah, look, I'm really lucky. I work with lots of different teams around this, and I suppose Rio's a good example. Leading into Rio, we did a lot of work with athletes around this because we knew if they're going to a pinnacle event, some of them have worked all their life to get there, there was going to be a lot of pressure on, in a moment that could be 2 or 3 seconds, and it's the ability to manage that moment. So a lot of athletes would use it in their preparation and often when they're competing to stay present with what they're trying to do.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at one of our top sports teams and see how they stay positive.
The St Andrews College First 15 rugby team have had a successful season so far. What is the secret to their success?
In my opinion, the team's been going quite well this year so far. We started the year really well. However, we have lost a couple of games, so we're looking to rebuild that in future games. Playing rugby at St Andrews has shaped me as the person that I am today, as the culture of St Andrews rugby has been really good, developing right through the grades, starting at year 8, working my way right through to the first 15. So yeah, it's been really good. The team resets each week by starting at the review on Monday, so we'll watch some film from the game and understand where we went wrong, what we need to work on for the following week, and then also looking forward to the weekend's game and understanding where we need to attack and that sort of thing.
And I'd say now for 10 minutes, this could be the first opportunity.
Gilbert. Morgan Griffin into the line. Gilbert.
Behind every good team, there is a great coaching panel.
Look, I think that the teams differ every year depending on the composition of the personnel. Because it's quite a young team, there's a certain energy within this team, and we sort of noticed that at our pre-season camp. So they're a good young group to work with, and I think they're a group that's really responding to the coaching that's being put in front of them. They're quite eager to learn, so that bodes well when you're trying to move them along the continuum.
This is Joe's second year in the first 15. He is a senior player, and we want to know how he has been coping with the responsibilities of being a role model for younger players.
Well, I feel that the trainings and the professionalism of it has really helped my my rugby knowledge, and also being out there playing in front of big crowds and sometimes even on the TV really helps your experience. During the rugby season, it takes up 5 days of your week. 4 of those will be training and 1 game. Then in the pre-season, we do a lot of hard work there to get ourselves ready for the season. It's going to be really sad because this is the only level of rugby you get to hang out with your mates all day and then go play with them on the paddock. But in saying that, it's also really exciting for next year. You know, see what the future has in store for me. So.
Wilson, Gilbert into midfield for Lockie McIntosh. He's been busy the open side flanker. Gilbert to the line. Can he take the fullback on the outside? What a great try! Sam Gilbert. They've been patient, deliberate, and then the captain took the defence on and then ran around the last defender. That's a great individual try from Sam Gilbert.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Let's talk a bit more about positive psychology. More than mindfulness, isn't it?
Look, it is. I mean, mindfulness is certainly one we use a lot within athletes, and you know, as we touched on before, Rio was one we used a lot then because it was the ability to probably be mindless at times, the ability to let their focus shift, and then their ability to bring their focus back. So often, if you look at an event in between events, that's the main bit you've got to focus on, is that, because that's when your mind wanders the most. So if you had an athlete who, say, was a thrower, once they're throwing, they're okay, but it's the gap between when they throw again. Often during that time, we might allow them, you know, let your mind go. But it's your ability then to slowly bring your mind back into focusing on one thing, and that's where mindfulness was very, very helpful. With regard to positive psychology, yeah, there's more components. I mean, there's around character strengths, growth mindset, thinking traps, PERMA model. There's lots of other parts to positive psychology, that's for sure.
So you did work in Rio?
Look, I was in the States 3 weeks leading into Rio with an athlete. I didn't get to go to Rio. I went to the Com Games once before that, but it was probably had maybe, I don't know, 8 to 10 athletes who I was working with leading into Rio, who are Christchurch based, so no, it was good.
So how do you see positive psychology?
Look, positive psychology, I suppose, you know, people get confused it's about being positive, which I said before, it's not about that. Often a lot of psychology for the last 100 years, it's been on what's wrong. And it looks at what's wrong with people and diagnosing that. So positive psychology is more about, well, what's going right and how do we get people from 0 to +5 instead of people from -5 to 0. So it's around making people flourish. You know, for me, I look around the world and there's lots of really unhappy people around. There's people disengaged who are struggling. Positive psychology is around giving them tools to manage that.
So how can each of us use positive psychology in our own lives?
Look, there's many aspects to it. I mean, as I said, growth mindset's a great one. Basically, when they look at what makes people happy and successful is around a growth mindset compared to a fixed mindset. It's a work from Carol Dweck from Stanford University. And again, it's our perception of events. So they would, and we use this in the sporting context, embrace failure, for example. A lot of people fear failure. Well, why would you fear failure? Because that's when you learn the most and grow the most. But unfortunately, most of the time, failure is looked as a negative. Growth mindset, failure is part of the process. It's about learning to get better. So if we can get people to understand it's an important part of life, we end up not fearing it. And that's really important.
So if we all learned how these concepts work, how would we be better off?
Look, I suppose the model of positive psychology looks at you to start flourishing more, and what we mean by that doesn't mean bad things won't happen to you, they'll still happen. But what you learn to live with and learn to manage is resiliency and grit, and that's what we want. We want people to actually be able to go out there and live the life they want. But if you reflect on your own life and think of the things you haven't done because you're scared, you haven't done because you're worried about failure, so you'd actually probably live a life which is more fulfilling and more happy, but a lot more failure along the way, but that's great.
Well, thank you, Mr. Quinn, very much for that insight into positive psychology and mindfulness and the concepts that a lot of people are talking about.
That's StAC's 100 for this week. Thank you.
Goodbye.